Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends, and welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today's Tuesday. It is February the 17th. Thanks for joining me on this program, and thanks for being a thinker. Today's program is going to be a discussion about outsourcing your thinking and how many people do it. It used to be the Hey Siri, people that had their iPhone. Hey Siri, can you call this person? Hey Siri, can you do this thing for me? Hey Siri, can you look up the address of this deal? And that was kind of the entry into AI. And it's evolved and it's been Hey Meta, and you can get the AI glasses. There was actually some really neat AI glasses that I saw that were being advertised to me. And there was a discount on them. And I went like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to have like some cameras in a glasses if I wanted to go do some shooting videos, or if I was out riding a bike, or I was going for a run somewhere on a cool trail and I wanted to be able to beep, hit a button and tap it and make it happen. And then it's like, now with AI and all this AI stuff, and you can ask questions and it'll throw this crap out there. And you're like, oh, can I just get the glasses on the Oakley frames without all the computer shit that's trying to tell me what it thinks or track me and all that stuff? I just would do without that. And I'm recognizing that more and more people, and I thought it was just a meme. I thought it was just like an internet, sort of dunk on younger people, where they outsource their thinking to ChatGPT. Hey, ChatGPT, tell me what I need to know about this article. Hey, Grok, tell me about what's in here. Summarize this so I don't have to do any of the mental work. I want to know the information, but I don't want to actually earn the information by just reading what another human being thought. Summarize this video that's 6 minutes long that I want to know what's going on in it. But I don't want to actually watch it because I'm just too important. I have too many things going on. There are so many people out there that have decided to use artificial intelligence, which is it's just a machine that digests information and it puts stuff out. And then they go out there and they act like that is in fact true. Well, why do you know that? It's like, because I used AI to summarize something and it cherry picked it. That same summarization, that same, like, I'm going to be briefed by some third party. That is the same as reading the cliff notes on the books when we were children and not actually getting the literature and not understanding the depth of what was going on in any kind of some writing. It just told you what the big themes were and then you walked away with it, but you didn't actually read the words. The idea that you would go and outsource AI, and what you don't even realize is that the AI module is keying in on the words and the way that you request information, and it's giving you back things. We had a little interaction on Locals, and I saw it this morning. One of our longtime members was interacting with another person that was saying something like, hey, the Dow is measured in dollars, because I asked AI, what sort of monetary units does the Dow get measured in? And so this woman says, yeah, it's dollars, because I asked what kind of monetary units, and AI told me that it was dollars. And it's like, well, listen, hun, nothing for nothing. I've been listening to financial reporting since I was 9 years old. I was the nerdiest 9-year-old kid that nobody knew was a nerd because my dad ran a news station when I was a young kid. And so I used to listen to hourly updates on all the financials. I listened to the stock market and the discussion of the S&P and the Dow, and no one's ever called it in dollars because it's not a dollars thing. It used to be a dollars thing. The Dow is measured in points, and the points roughly correspond to dollars. But if you asked AI, hey, what sort of monetary units, it's going to give you monetary units because it's trying to give you the answer in the way that it does. But it's actually some aggregate of a bunch of different stock prices divided by some divisor, which is like 6.61 or something like that, or 6.72. It's some random ass number. And then it comes out in points. It's not a thing. And so many people have decided that things that are not so are so because it's come from a copy of a copy of a copy. And if any of you ever saw the movie Multiplicity, that's probably the best analogy. You guys remember there was this movie, and it was with Michael Keaton. It was one of his better movies for sure. It was really funny, and it was really small. It didn't have like blockbuster capabilities. Michael Keaton goes out and learns how to clone himself. This was like an early joke about the cloning problems. And some of them were really scary, like the clones are bad and they're going to do this thing. No, this was just like, what happens if you copy a copy and a copy? What happens if you copy yourself to do more stuff and you get another version of yourself that's also smart and it just goes out and does the things that you would do and you're like, that's great. And then you have another copy of yourself and it does some other things, but it's more athletic or physical, or it does all the handyman stuff. And then your copies start wanting to outsource some of it and they copy themselves. And eventually you end up with this dude who's just literally licking windows and like his own hand. And he's just running. He's a legit retard window licker because he's a copy of a copy. He's eating glue in the corner and like running into walls and stuff. Right? If you are grabbing AI summaries of other AI articles from AI personalities, you are just getting this downward spiral of less and less. You are dumbing down America. You are doing idiocracy to yourself. That's what happens. And so I saw an example of that over on X yesterday of someone asking to summarize a video that I pushed out of former Deputy Director of the FBI, Dan Bongino, co-Deputy Director, as my buddy Steve Friend likes to remind me. And it was just like, oh my God, this is so complicated. Just summarize, just tell me what to think. I'll show you the tweet. It's actually fairly embarrassing for that person, but it's, you posted it publicly, so you get to own it. And it's not to make fun of that person per se. It's to make fun of that instinct that we have. That is there an easy button? It used to be that if you wanted to know something, you had to go get it. This morning, I was able to find clips of Alina Habba saying wild things about the Epstein files in seconds. And that's incredible. Because when I was growing up, I would have had to drive down to a library. I would have had to gone through a bunch of microfiber or like scan through a bunch of VHS tapes. And then later on, I might be able to do it on a laser disc. And I would scan through all those and try to find all of the files of some, program that was doing interviews that someone managed to archive. Like the access to information we have now is absolutely incredible. And it's overwhelming to the point where people just have this analysis paralysis where they just don't want to do it. And yet, it is your responsibility to be informed. And we are less informed now. I think people know less things than they've maybe ever known. And they have more information available to them than they've ever had. And that is why the intro to my buddy's podcast, the American Radicals podcast, is what it is. And Steve and I came up with the wording for that together. But I want you to consider this. You're in the information age, and yet facts are in short supply. The reason why that was the verbiage that we settled on is because you have access to unlimited capability. Like, here, I'll take it out of the Faraday bag for a second. The entire earned wisdom of Western civilization can be accessed from this phone in my pocket. There's my family. There's my kiddos. This phone in my pocket can access the entirety of Western civilization. All the wisdom, all of the writings, all of the thought processes, all the facts. I can query for facts. Hey, which presidents had a balanced budget in the last 100 years in the United States? Oh, there's only like 6 of them, 7 of them. Got it. What years were those balanced budgets done? When did we have a budget surplus? It can grab those facts and they're available. And yet we know less than ever. People walk around with zero information, like waiting to be just downloaded on, and then they just think about whatever the last thing they got. I saw this TikTok. Now that's how I'm going to vote. Oh, I had someone say this thing to me. Is it true? I don't know. Sounds like it. I'll get my wife sending me videos. Look at what this email says in the Epstein files. I'm like, that email came into NTALC, the National Tactical Operations Center or Threat Operations Center, from a crazy person, like a legit wacko. There's no substance underneath it. It's backstopped by zero evidence. But it is in writing, and it wasn't a video, and a person did say it, and it's really compelling when people tell us stuff, and they have some words behind it. So our inability to access facts, despite having access to more information than ever before, is really a problem. And it's going to continue to be a problem. And all of that is to say, I've got some news stories that I want to run through. I've got... we're going to talk about why I look at this stuff and I just go, it's so clearly being fed to us and we're so easily taken in by it. A lot of what I do is just look at, I want to know what is being covered. And then I try to figure out why is that the angle? that these major news corporations are feeding us. And then I want to find out, is there something else interesting that's going on that we are missing otherwise? So that's what we're going to do. And that's where today's program is going to go. This outsourcing of our thinking. Hey, ChatGPT, what should I think about this? That's pretty much that's the summary of where it happens. And I know that was a little bit long, but hopefully that's valuable to you. I've got a lot of examples. Let's start off with my friends over at Cove Pure. Guys, if you are not feeling your healthiest, if you are stepping into this year, 2026, and you're thinking, it used to be simpler. I used to be able to handle stuff. I used to be able to do, maybe the one thing you're forgetting is your hydration. How many times do we have to remind our children? I'm doing it almost every time I get in the car. Hey, does everyone have their water bottle? And they all fill theirs up at a Cove Pure system, which is up in their bathroom, which is on the upstairs. It doesn't require any plumbing, so that's why I can put it anywhere I want. And I put it where my kids can access it with a little stepping stool because I got little ones. It's got little buttons that you push that gives you the exact right amount of water for the actual bottles they have, which is fantastic. You can get it hot. You can get it cold. Good for the kids. You can get it lukewarm. The ability to make instant tea up there is helpful because I run the studio up out of the outstairs as well. So sometimes I access their water thing. It gives you clear water that just tastes like water instead of all the other junk. Here we've got a bunch of sulfur in the water. Some of you are worried about pesticides and residues and microplastics and PFAs and runoff and fluoride and all the other crap. 99.9% of contaminants are removed by the Cove Pure system. It's super easy to set up, which is a major benefit to be able to just push a button, walk away, push a button. Less than 15 minutes, boom. You actually have it all running. If you've ever tried to set up any of the drip filters, there's a lot more involved, including like worrying about leaks. This is plug and play. This filters last for a really long time. I think the short-term filters that they have last for something like up to 6 months. The long ones will last for 24 months. So you're not constantly buying new filters every day. Really great system. I think that for what it provides and the sleekness of the package, you'll be really pleased with it. We have it upstairs. Like I said, it's great for my kiddos. It's a good, easy option that good for renters, good for couples, good for RV if you want to take something with you, that kind of thing. Covepure.com/Kyle, Covepure.com/KYLE. There's a link in the show description right now. You're going to save $200 off their regular price. So that's a solid deal. And you know what? If you don't have water, like what, you're going to fall apart. That's like base level stuff for anybody who's ever been through basic training. It's take a knee, it's hydrate, and then it's press on. So check out Cove Pure. If you guys are not hydrating properly, this may be a good start for you, especially if you don't like drinking water because you don't like the taste, which is most of us. That's where you go. All right, let's do today's program starting now. Kind of hyped up right now. I'm having fun with this because there was so many different little video clips that I wanted to grab and explain my thinking today. But let's lead off with this. Let's lead off with, who is this? NBC, I think. Nope, that's not NBC. I've got a couple of the mainstream media outlets. Let's see. Okay, this one is CBS. I've got a couple of the mainstream media outlets' homepages. I wanted to see first thing in the morning, and this is what I do every day. So if you guys don't know, how do I source the news that I want to cover? What do I see as being relevant? This is it. I go to the homepage and I look at what's covered on CBS, and then we look over here and we look at ABC, okay? And then we look over here and this is at NBC, and then sometimes I'll do more, and this will be, which one is this one? I think this is CNN. Which one is this? CNN, maybe? So I'll run through these different homepages, and I want to see what stories is everybody covering today. What's going on in the world that everybody wants to talk about? And there's a couple of sites that I found that are a little bit more diverse than others. I found that that CBS does a pretty good job. ABC does a pretty good job of hitting more topics than less. CNN spoon feeds you like up to one topic at a time. And so when you choose your news organization that you're going to go to, when you outsource the editorialization of what they're going to pick, then you end up actually finding out that you're going to cultivate your worldview in that way. And so that's not done by AI. That's done by people. You guys realize that. The editors that select what you're involved in, what you're going to learn about if you go to any of these news sites. If you're not a podcast person, if you drive in, let's say you're listening to the hourly news and you listen to a CBS affiliate, or you listen to an ABC affiliate, or you listen to a Fox News affiliate. There's some editor there that is picking the stories that they think are the most interesting or the most important, whatever it may be, based on what they know, what they see that's happening, and then they feed that to you. And so I'm doing no different. I like, full disclosure, I'm also picking based on things that are interesting to me, that I think are the coherent narrative. So you are outsourcing some of the thoughts to me, which is why I always tell you to be a skeptic. Kyle, are you a little bit more focused on the federal government than maybe other people? Yeah, 100% I am. Why is that? Well, that's what my experience is. Kyle, are you focused on federal law enforcement at a pretty high level? I am. Yep. Let's just be real clear where I come from, right? I worked in finance and I worked in private industry for a while. I sold advertising. I sold computers. I ran restaurants. I worked in finance for a movie studio. That was a little weird. I enlisted in the military when I was too old to do that. And I went through basic training at 27 years old, which is weird. Kind of weird, especially if you were 17 and you always knew a guy like me. You called me grandpa for some reason, even though I'm 10 years older. I am shaped by my experiences. So I tell you what those are. And the reason I want you to know that is because I'm clearly colored by the way that I grew up and what I experienced growing up and where I came from. I was born in California. I grew up in Texas a whole bunch. I went to college in Oklahoma. Those all shaped the way that I look at it. And then I worked for the government. And you know what? I had a pretty lousy experience with the government. So I'm a little sour on the government. I'm going to be more negative on the federal government, no matter who's in charge, than many. And so that editorial bias, I like to tell you what it is up front. And then you could just decide whether it makes sense to you or not. And if you want to discard it, you're like, well, you come from this background and you're a little bit soured on this. It's like, yeah, I am soured on that. I'm soured on Jesse Jackson. I think Jesse Jackson was a race hustler. I don't think that he deserves to be front page news. And the first thing that I saw on multiple different news sites is that he's a civil rights icon. Well, I would call him a racial grifter. But, we can all kind of agree to disagree. We all look at people differently. One man's hero, right? Or one man's criminal is another man's freedom fighter. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. We've heard these sort of things before. Jesse Jackson, to me, was a divisive figure. That's what I see. But he's front page news because he died at 84. And we have this interesting habit of whitewashing people, of pretending that they are wonderful simply because they are now dead. One day, Joe Biden will die. And people will say that he was a great person and he did great things and he was a statesman and he served his nation. And everybody will not bring up the fact that he was collecting bags of cash and that he farmed out his son and that his kid was a crackhead and his other kid had political aspirations and died early and all these other kind of things. Like they'll just forget about that. They'll forget about maybe the fact that his daughter ended up in rehab and talked about inappropriate age showers, right? We'll just brush past that. They will show pictures of him being younger, not the pictures of him being a frail, doddering old man. Somebody asked me the other day, they were like, where were you for the previous administrations? What are your cutesy nicknames? If you're calling Donald Trump's administration the Epstein administration, and shame on you for doing so, what did you call the previous president's generations? Their administration? And I'm like, oh, well, that's easy. Under Bush, that was the war boner administration. And then we got Obama. And Obama was the race dividing administration. I don't think there was anything more divisive to racial interactions in America than Barack Obama. And then we got Trump one, I don't know, the Golden Toilet administration, part one. Did okay. Kind of like Trump one right up until he got into his last year. So he was like, good for 3 quarters, but the fourth quarter, he kind of really crapped the bed on that one. Then we had Joe Biden. That was the human Roomba administration. We said it here many, many times. And now we have the Epstein administration. I'm not going to talk about Jesse Jackson today, even though he's the lead story everywhere. I am going to briefly mention the story that continues to be brought up because one of the funniest things that I've ever seen is a news media trying to make a story happen that shouldn't be there in the first place. This is the story of Nancy Guthrie. This is a silver alert. I made the joke about it yesterday. It's the most famous silver alert, maybe in American history, that I'm aware of. Guys, has there ever been a lost 84-year-old woman who has gotten wall-to-wall news coverage the way that Nancy Guthrie has for the last 15, 16 days? And here's the thing. The good news is that this news media coverage, it's really helping. I can picture the kid Ralph from The Simpsons with his finger up his nose, and he's like, I'm helping. That's the news media right now. They're helping for themselves. I'm going to summarize all the news articles that I've read about Nancy Guthrie in, let's say, the last 48 hours. which is a pretty good summary of what's gone on there. An old lady has been missing. She didn't show up to church, and no one knows where she is. They found some footage from a Ring camera of a person wearing a mask, a Walmart backpack, a crappy Uncle Mike's looking revolver holster with a maybe semi-automatic pistol in it, and some gloves. This person is described as a person in a mask wearing an Ozark Trails Walmart backpack and being of average build about 5'9" to 5'10". The news media, finger up nose, I'm helping. Hours and hours and hours of coverage on Fox, right? Hours of coverage from CBS, from NBC. Fascination. You know, in other news of old people, my grandmother fell. She's in her mid-90s. She's 96 years old. She fell and injured herself. She's freaking awesome. If something bad happened to her or if someone kidnapped my grandmother in her 90s, it would not even make local news, most likely. Not for more than like a few minutes. So then you got this lady. And nothing funnier to me than the most average height, 5'9" to 5'10". If it's estimated that much, it could be as little as 5'8" or as high as 5'11", I have to imagine. Of average build, whatever the hell that means in America in 2026, and wearing maybe the most accessible $11 backpack in the history of this time. Made in Chinesium, distributed to stores that are within a few minutes drive of almost every person in America, certainly in Arizona and in the Southwest. So that's what we spend our time covering. And so what are we not covering with that stuff? One story that I thought was quite interesting was a discussion about ultra-processed foods, which got a slight mention. And then also there was this video that went kind of viral. And so there's stories about a video that the Chinese have dancing robots that can do kung fu. So that would be borderline terrifying. If you had that story 15 or 18 years ago, kung fu doing robots would be absolutely shocking to us. And for me, it's like, well, what's going on the global stage? We are saber rattling against Iran. You know, geopolitics is not where I spend a bunch of my time. Corrupt and gross politicians and news media figures agitating for war that will send young men who have the same kind of mentality that I had 20 years ago. That actually kind of affects me. So we're going to talk a little bit about how gross that is. And we're supposed to believe that there is a MAGA reason, a Make America Great Again reason, an America First reason why we're supposed to send troops into what, Iran, and participate in the bombing of this thing. That's kind of strange. And then we can't get away from this Epstein story. I went, and every single time I go and get asked to do an interview, mostly right now I spend time doing stuff with Alex Jones, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And I went and did, the reason why I like to go to Alex Jones is because Alex has been in this wheelhouse for what, 30 years? Like, this is his beat. Child sacrifice, abuse of children, global elites getting away with things that nobody else would get away with. Like, who's better than that? Who's better to talk about that than Alex Jones? And when the man's wrong, like he was over the weekend, the first thing he does is fall on his sword and let you know that he blew it. I was on Alex's show for like an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and 20 minutes yesterday, and almost 15 minutes of it was him explaining in aggressive and overlying terms that he blew it. The first text message that he sent to me this weekend when he asked me if I would come on Monday, he's like, hey, can we get you? The first thing he said was, I really got fooled this weekend. And the reason that's relevant is because Alex Jones has been following headlines and reading stories and trying to suss out what he thinks is accurate. And I do think he thinks what was accurate. He tries to go and get that information. He's been doing that for 30 plus years professionally. And he can get it wrong, which means we should all be aware of our own biases, our own instincts, and our own want to believe certain things, especially when it actually goes down the line of what we are inclined to believe in the first place. We all do the same thing that the ChatGPT lady did on our locals account. We add little bits of flair when we start looking for the information because we have a confirmation bias and we are looking to be right. Everybody wants to do it. We all do it. So the better way for you to know is to understand that you are going to do that and then to be a skeptic of yourself. And I keep trying to teach this in so much as I always see people fooling themselves more than anything else. We're all possibly guilty. And we used to not care about some of the stuff that we care about. There used to be a time, there's a reason why a lot of us yearn for a simpler time when we had more knowledge in our head and less access to things. There was no phone, there was no internet. There's a reason why that bridge, people like my age bracket that remember the analog era, and many of this audience who have some age on me, but we had the same childhood and we experienced life the same way, which was that we couldn't go to like a phone and type it in. How many US presidents were involved in this? We used to actually know stuff like that. And when we listened to people who talked about politics, they might have been the only information we had because we had no way to gather that. Somebody said something on the news, like you weren't going to be able to fact check them. Today, when I hear someone say Donald Trump is the most conservative president in my lifetime, I'm like, well, how old are you? Because if you lived through the 90s and we're talking about fiscal conservatism on social issues, Bill Clinton was actually to the right of Donald Trump. On fiscal responsibility. Now, whether you want to give it credit to Newt Gingrich or to the Republican Congress that ran it, he presided over 4 budget, quote unquote, surpluses, which means that the government actually only spent money that it actually took in, 4 of them. And we haven't had that since 9/11. Isn't that wild? We haven't had a financially responsible government since basically George Bush got elected. I got out of high school and our government has been spending hand over fist every single thing that they can, spending into the future, which is what we talked about yesterday. They get first access to your paycheck. And how many people realize, you know what? We did this to ourselves. Do you know, and I didn't realize this was the way that it was passed because I've been kind of wondering about this. We talk about the 16th and the 17th Amendment here, 2 things that I really think broke the quote unquote constitutional republic. I think that's an illusion. And as a quick side note, Dan Bongino in his clips, and I don't watch his show, but I do see the clips. He keeps saying, that's the beauty of living in a constitutional republic. Dan has done the thing that we used to say in the 80s that you guys remember growing up saying. You'd be like, hey, you know, can I stick around here, man? And people would go, you do whatever you want. It's a free country. Do you remember saying that? It's a free country. Hey, you know, I'd like to order a cheeseburger. Can I get bacon on that? Yeah, free country, man. You remember free country? It's a free country. That's what we used to say. Dan has done some mental switch. I'm going to diagnose it real quickly because I think it's actually relevant to the way that we get ourselves locked into these weird little spaces. Dan Bongino's clip all say it's a constitutional republic instead of free country. He means free country. He means the thing that we said when we said free country, okay? And in doing so, he's trying to head off the people that are on the left that say in our democracy. So he's done a switch. It's really funny to watch people that are like not as smart as they think they are. Okay. And here's where it goes. Democrats all say we live in a democracy. Conservatives and Republicans kind of intermittently, some conservatives say it. Donald Trump says democracy is too, by the way, 90s Democrat. But conservatives will say you live in a constitutional republic. I think that's a veneer. I think that's fake, but that's fine. That's what the actual term is that we're going to use. Dummies that think that they're intellectuals say, I'm not going to say democracy. I mean free country. But free country, in my mind, is equated with democracy, so I'm going to say constitutional republic. See? There was a time when things used to be simpler. Here's a former congresswoman reminding us that we used to probably know more things, and we were less concerned about nonsense, and it wasn't politics. We used to care about the things that were really important, and then politics was downstream of that. If you cared about your family, if you cared about your career, if you cared about doing well for your community, those things sort of like floated up, and the government was supposed to take care of itself. Then we had this break in trust, and I think it happened sometime around the late 90s, early 2000s. 9/11's a good example of it. When the surveillance state was launched, when government realized they could get away with a whole bunch if they get you in fear, and then we've been invaded by technology that just keeps an eye on us all the time. MTG's remembering a simpler time. There's a strong moment in this country right now for people that are old enough to recall how much we hate that's going on right now for all the benefits of it. Like I get to work because of the internet. And yet, if you gave me an opportunity, I'd rather go dig ditches than do this if we could get rid of the whole internet. MTG.
What I am 100% for is pulling the left and the right, the American people, pulling us back together. That's the America I love. This was before I got involved in politics. I was friends with everybody. We all were. Politics did not reign over our family get-togethers, our social events, the freaking Super Bowl, concerts, my God, everything. We had life, and it was so fun. Oh my gosh, we had so much fun. I want to go back to the days of the government can be seen but not heard. Not heard. I don't want to hear a fucking thing you say. Shut up. Like, I want that. Now, what does it look like policy-wise? I'm one of those got to get in the granular details and like read the actual legislation or the policy description and analyze, well, how does that affect us? Can we actually afford that? We're $40 trillion in debt, and we're 7 years away from Social Security being insolvent. Like, these are major problems. So like for as far as like the economic policies, I'd have to get more into to understand. But I think that what I want to see is I just love people. I love all the people. I don't care what group they are. I don't care their race. I don't care whatever their sexual this. I don't care about their religion. I just think that people are so great that we need to pull ourselves together, and we have to hold our government accountable. That's what our founding fathers told us to do. Like, it's
MTG's kind of all over the map on that, isn't she? That's that kind of, we'll call it female brain organization. There was some emotion in there. There was some things that I think were true. Let me try to say what I think she was saying the same way. People are the thing that matters. Human beings that are in your immediate vicinity are the things that actually matter. Your community is what matters. If you are a conservative, then you think the federal government, which is the furthest thing from you, that is other people spending other people's money. It just turns out that money is yours. They're other people to you. They're strangers. Those people are problematic because historically speaking, especially prior to the connectivity of the internet, we were closer knit because we had to know things. How many phone numbers do you know off the top of your head right now? How many people could you pick up the phone and dial from a regular a telephone, a landline, without having auto dial on? It's way less. It's far less. So MTG is saying two things that seem in conflict. We have to hold the government accountable. We need to know what's going on in policy and all this other kind of stuff. And yet she hates the government and she wants it to be seen but not heard and not bothered. What that is really saying is we have a government that does not serve the people. It has lost track of the mission. That is an overwhelming theme that we do here at this podcast. All right. The theme is there are two things that you learn in the military that justify the action. You have a mission. The mission is something that must be fulfilled. That's the task. The purpose is why. Government has lost its task and purpose, and it serves only government. This is the concept, visually speaking, of the self-licking ice cream cone. If you've ever bought an ice cream cone and it were to just lick itself until it was gone, you'd go, well, why did I buy that thing? Exactly. Why do we need this organization that basically serves itself? Why do we need people who have jobs for the sake of their jobs and not to actually accomplish a mission? I regularly talk about the federal government being a jobs program, and it is, and it's gross. The reason is because those people do jobs, but they don't see the human beings that they are meant to benefit on the other end of it. I show up every day and I work at the VA hospital. My job is to take all these papers and plug them all in and get all this data and get it into this system. And when I'm done, I get a paycheck. That's the purpose of my job. No, that's not the purpose. You work for the Veterans Affairs Administration, and your job is to serve veterans who already serve this nation to make sure that you're safe. But if you don't know that your job is meant to follow on a bigger purpose, then we end up in this situation where people don't even know why they're showing up to work. This is the reason why we don't have customer service anymore. My job is to show up at the restaurant every day and to go home with money. No, your job is to show up every day and take somebody else's experience and make sure that they don't have to do the work because you are now going to provide them with the food and the water and you're going to bring things to them. And if they look over, you're already anticipating what their needs are and you are going to care for them in this limited scope. And at the end, they are going to compensate you for your time for the service that you provided. We've lost that. How many people think that there is service anywhere? And when you experience it, doesn't it blow your mind? A lot of my experience came from waiting tables and bartending and managing restaurants and seeing human beings who came and they said, I could do this for myself, but I've chosen to pay someone else to do it. And so we should be worthy of that thing. And our government should have the same attitude. There are many things that we could do without government, but we've chosen to outsource it to this larger group. And it should be worthy of that outsourcing and our trust. And it is not. And so a lot of our problems come from that. And then the other piece of it comes into people don't want to do the actual work to think on their own. They want to just let it happen. You know why we have a 16th Amendment, as far as I can tell, from digging into a little bit of the understanding of the time period in 1908 to 1913, when they actually passed the 16th Amendment? The reason that we have a 16th Amendment, which created the federal income tax and allowed it to exist, it previously was considered unconstitutional, is because there was a moment of greed and envy in this nation where some people had a lot of money. And in order to fund the things that the government needed to grow and do, they wanted to tax those wealthy individuals. So they convinced regular people, and of course the politicians as well, to tax the rich on their incomes. They had previously tried to tax rich people on their incomes, and they were told it was unconstitutional. The Supreme Court actually ruled that that was not possible. So we had this moment where Americans said, aha, we could tax the rich. We're going to authorize the federal government to reach into the paychecks of the wealthy and fund things that we would like. We were going to take from those who have more than us. It's the classic progressive communist lie that if we could just tax the wealthy and make them pay their fair share, what we believe is their fair share, then we're going to be in better shape. And what is the end result of that 16th Amendment? Fast forward 100 years and where we sit today. Many of you are not very wealthy and you are a wage slave, and the government gets first right of refusal on your dollars. And then they get to decide what they're going to do with it in a way that doesn't even serve you. Isn't that amazing? Think about it when you start making, like, for example, if I have a settlement with the federal government for things that they did that was wrong to me as an employee, the first thing that happens to my settlement is the federal government gets a piece of it back. Is that not insane? My buddies who are getting back pay from the FBI for their malfeasance and the horrible stuff they did, the religious discriminations in complete violation of our Constitution, the first thing that happens when they get back pay is the federal government keeps a big chunk of it. Because we authorized that. We voted away our freedom. And we did it because nobody thought about the downstream consequences. They did the 1913 version of AI. What do I need to know about this? And somebody told them. They shaped the narrative and briefed to them. Here's what you need to know. The rich have too much money. We would like to take some of it. We're going to help fund all the programs that you want with someone else's money. What do you think? And people were like, got it. I'm in. And they never once thought, hey, what happens if you want to do more stuff? When will you come down further and start taking money from me as a working class person? And they were like, oh, yeah, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that thing. That's going to take 100 years. You'll be dead by then. And they were right. That's where we're at. Wild. And those rich people, that people were, quote, I'm using the word rich, like I'm using it in air quotes. Like, what does that even mean? Nobody knows, right? Where is that line of rich? Lower and lower, I'm sure, especially when it comes to tax purposes. Some of these people that live in very different circles, what do? They just changed what the word income means. They changed who they are, so they don't get paid anymore. I know people that are uber wealthy, tens and tens of millions of dollars to their name, $0 in their actual name, zero income in their actual name, completely unsuable because everything goes into a trust that is controlled by someone that is not them that they trust, or maybe it's controlled by them through some board of directors, which is also not exclusively them. So it's just not them. It turns out people who have money and wealth actually know how to protect it. So, I'm not mad at them. I think they're smarter. I'm just saying this stuff always ends up, whenever you vote into these communist ideas, whatever you thought you were going to get, it only works for a couple of minutes. And then they turn around and they start looking for more money. Like a sump pump that runs out of water. It finds the water. It finds the low ground. It always seeks lower and lower. Kind of amazing. All right. Let me actually tell you about my friends over here, why you're thinking about things that are bad. You want to spend some money and invest in a good American company and buy a product that's going to keep you safe. This is my buddies over at Shield Arms. Appreciate them. Saw them at SHOT Show. This is video from last SHOT Show. I think I've got some video of their booth from this SHOT Show, so I'll have to pull it up and redo this. ShieldArms.com is the website. ShieldArms.com. Promo code Kyle saves you a couple percent. I don't know what it is. Might be 5%, might be 10%. Depends on the day that they're doing it. You'll save some money by using my name at the end. They make excellent firearms. They make probably the best AR-15 stripped lowers and finished lowers that you'll ever buy because they're folding and they're integrated and they are better than anyone else's systems. And I don't know anyone else that has anything like it. So if you guys are looking for a traditional buffer operated AR-15 lower, My buddy, in fact, the guy on the screen right there, Mike, who owns the gun store down the way from me, he said the lowers that Shield makes are some of the best selling they have because they're really, really good. They cost a little bit more. They're made in Montana. They're made in their factory, and they make them to their own specs, and they're legit. And if they get the finished one, it's got everything you need on it. It's got an upgraded trigger. It's got all the ambi controls and all that kind of stuff. So check out Shield Arms. Check out their firearms. Check out their soft stuff. You're seeing like they've got like a really nice set for chest rig. If you're not a person that wears body armor, or if you wear slick armor and you want to throw something over the top. Good idea. Good for cops. Good for everyday shooters. Good for competitive shooters. Good for dads who might be worried about a Uvalde. You know, shieldarms.com, promo code Kyle, link in the show description. Check them out. Worth your time. And their big thing that they do is they make these magazines, which you can see right over my shoulder. Here, watch. Right there. That one right there. That's the magazine. That's the extended base plates they do. They have higher capacity than normal for factory, small Glock micro pistols. So if you want to do a 43 or 43X and upgrade those things, totally worth your time. We're gonna come back to the intermittent discussion that I have about firearms, because it actually comes into play in like one of the weird stories that got covered today. I want to go down the rabbit hole of this Epstein thing because I grabbed a bunch of clips. Yesterday I did a 90 minutes on Alex Jones' show, and we were talking about things that seem to have eluded the American mainstream conversation because I've watched a lot of the coverage. I think that Donald Trump doesn't know what's going on, which is really weird. I don't like to think that I am more informed on important things than our president, particularly when this is the thing that is going to destroy his presidency from the PR side. There will be no more progress towards any of the goals that Donald Trump wants to win politically now that this has come out. And I'm going to tell you why. I've actually distilled it to the reason why. But I'm going to show you some evidence that there's worse stuff in those files than we've been able to see yet. Yesterday, we brought up, there's been about a dozen people, and the links were in yesterday's show comments. There are very powerful attorneys. There are significant captains of industry, and there are people that are in government entities, both in the US and abroad, that have left their jobs or been fired for their jobs. Mostly they voluntarily left. There are people selling off their very prominent and lucrative companies. And I've gotten a story of one more of them. People are leaving their jobs, and it's not because they sent some flirty emails in 2003 or gave some legal advice in 2008 or 9. And some of these people have changed their stories over the years. Alan Dershowitz is one of them, by the way. I had the amusing sort of algorithmic feed to me. And then I had Viva Frey send me over a clip that he interviewed Alan Dershowitz in 2020. And Dershowitz was like, I went to the island one time and it was no big deal. And the minute that Epstein started being accused of all the gross stuff, that's when I stopped talking to him and I cut ties. And then he sort of left out the fact that he also defended him in the first case in 2008. And that case is when he was accused of doing a bunch of gross stuff. And now he's being his biggest defender. Like he's like doing this, like sort of like the worst people in the world need due process as well. It's really interesting the way that people will justify and change their claims. This is the nice thing about telling the truth up front. You never have to wonder what the truth is. Some people do. Some people have said some lies for some long time. And then when it looks like the truth might come out, they got to run. So this is one of those stories. This is how I know that this is a bigger problem than we are led to believe. And it's way bigger than Donald Trump. But Donald Trump's going to be the one who eats this problem. He's going to eat it like someone swinging a baseball bat right at his face because he doesn't have the sense to get out of the way. So watch this.
NBC5 investigates. The chairman of the Chicago-based Hyatt Hotels announces that he is stepping down from this position, citing his connections to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Tom Pritzker did not mention his ties to the deceased sex offender in his official announcement from Hyatt, but in a separate news release, he announced that he wanted to protect the hotel brand and that he exercised terrible judgment in maintaining contact with Epstein. Our investigative reporter Bennett Haberly in studio tonight with much more on this story. Bennett.
Yeah, Allison, Tom Pritzker's name does appear in a trove of these released documents from the Epstein files. And the email threads, though, are mostly scheduling related, but do show he maintained contact with Epstein for 10 years after his conviction on solicitation charges from Florida back in 2008.
Look, all we're saying is these were just scheduling things. These were just emails. Except what were they scheduling? And were other people there? And do they know what was being discussed? And it was well known that he was like a child, he was a sex offender at that time. Would that be the thing that makes someone leave as chairman of Hyatt Hotels? No. It continues to be the case that people interject themselves and have things to say about this story. They can't help themselves. And yet the evidence is pretty overwhelming that obviously there was bad stuff and it was gross because people are acting as though there's a problem. Hillary Clinton accused the Trump administration of a quote unquote cover up. How rich is that, by the way, considering who her husband is? Over its handling of the Epstein documents. Former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has accused the Trump administration of a continuing cover-up in the way that it handled the release of millions of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. They're slow-walking it. They redacted the names of men who are in on it. They're stonewalling legitimate requests from members of Congress, she told the BBC at a Munich security conference in Berlin. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche has repeatedly defended the Justice Department's handling of the files. Isn't he a former Southern District of New York attorney, where they would have been prosecuting it, saying that the DOJ is committed to transparency and they're quote-unquote hiding nothing. The latest batch of documents released by the DOJ contains several references to Bill Clinton, offering fresh insights in somewhat lewd ways to the president's staff and the way that he communicated Epstein and his longtime associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. Interesting. Well, Hillary Clinton's out of the firing line. One, she probably wasn't like the Epstein guy. She probably also hates Bill Clinton, from what we can tell. And didn't they just dodge a subpoena and then agree to show up? That's not the only story there. What about this lady? This is what? Sarah Ferguson? She's the ex-wife of Prince Andrew. 6 companies that are linked to her are going to be shut down after the latest batch of Epstein files have been released. She's listed as the sole director of the companies, all of which in recent days are being struck off the UK's official Companies House Register, where virtually all businesses must register or file to register with the directors and the details of their annual returns. It's not clear exactly what services these companies provided. One company was directly involved in public relations and communication services, according to Companies House. Another was a retail business. The move comes as the U.S. Justice Department releases a fresh tranche of the so-called Epstein files on January 30th. Spokesperson for Sarah Ferguson, known as Fergie, said last year that the former Duchess had severed her ties with Epstein as soon as she was aware of the extent of the allegations, very much the way you heard Alan Dershowitz say, except none of them actually did these things until they were actually pushed into it. Now, we shouldn't just jump to conclusions, should we? Let's look at somebody who had access to the whole file, allegedly. And let's have a sane and sober thought about this. Let's go to the former co-deputy director of the FBI, who's a little bit frustrated that they didn't get as much credit as they should for the work that was being done.
On the Epstein thing as well, there are a lot of people mentioned in there. I always got kind of annoyed that people didn't give us, the opportunity to get out and explain before they had jumped to conclusions. I don't jump to conclusions on anyone.
Okay, Dan Bongino does not jump to conclusions on anyone, folks. All right, and you guys didn't give him enough credit while he was at the FBI. So that's on you. Shame on you. I'm being sarcastic, of course.
But if you're Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Bannon or others out there, then, I'm not jumping to conclusions on anything. However, I've spent 4 shows now explaining what we did and why. It's up to you. If you agree with it, don't agree with it, like it or don't.
Is he about to tell you that it's a free country?
It's fair game. I'm fair game, was a public figure. But people called for transparency, and now you got it. So, now it's your turn. Now, you saw a massive dump of what's known as the Epstein case file.
We're going to come back to that. He doesn't jump to conclusions, okay? Just because somebody is in the file, it doesn't mean anything, right? It was a lot of work. It was hard. Does this guy forget what he used to do for a living?
I'll say this clearly. I have a friend of mine who called me a long time ago, who was on a plane with Epstein and Clinton, was there and saw some very suspicious, shady stuff. I don't have any more details. Said one day he'd get back to me and tell me the full story or give me permission to run with at least the minimal details I have. He hasn't since. So it's not it's nothing I can do. I can't force him into it. It's not my information to give up. I'm not going to talk to you about details I don't have. But he did give me permission to tell you that it was odd, very odd what happened. And it bothered him.
Listen, I got a friend who knows Bill Clinton. And I'm not going to tell you anything, but I am authorized to tell you that he knew some things that I can't tell you. It's not my story, so I can't tell you the things. But you can imagine if I did tell you those things, what those things would be. And it was, let's just say this, very shady, right? Let's not jump to conclusions about somebody. But also, I just used to make a living jumping to conclusions. Does this guy forget what he did? This is some of the stuff that you listen to and you're like, is there complete professional amnesia in this space? It's the same. It doesn't matter whether it's Hillary Clinton and her husband was there. Was she's complicit in whatever her husband was involved in? Wherever she went, she didn't say something about it. Now she's going to call out Donald Trump. It's Sarah Ferguson. Yeah, as soon as I found out he was a dirtball, I stopped doing things. By the way, I just closed down all my businesses because all these files just came out. Oops, closed. The guy at Hyatt, closed. Brad Karp, law firm, left. No longer going to be the chairman. Catherine Rumler, oops, left my job. Totally not related. Like, I didn't do anything wrong, but like, you know, in case I did, in case there's more. That's how I know there's a lot more going on here. I don't know what it is because I never had access to it, but somebody did. Apparently this guy forgot what he did for a living for the last 9 months.
Now, you saw a massive dump of what's known as the Epstein case file this weekend. This is almost unprecedented in American history, letting this information out there. There's going to be a lot of strong opinions on it. Good. That is the best part of living in a constitutional republic, that this stuff is not hidden. There's a lot of curiosity about this case over time, me included, for obvious reasons. It involves a disturbing set of circumstances, a lot of very wealthy people who interacted with them. There is a process because innocent people are entitled to a trial until they are proven guilty.
Except Bill Clinton, we just make allegations about him on a massive podcast. That's fine. But all right, carry on. And by the way, you caught the Constitutional Republic, I'm sure.
However, given the interest in the case, I think on net, positives and negatives, it is a net positive that you're able to look at this and see this so we can you can see what happened behind the scenes. Now,
does this guy not remember what they did? Does he not remember that they tried to like shut this thing down quietly, that they made all these promises, that all these promises were made through Pam Bondi, through the DOJ, that proxies for Donald Trump came out and spoke about it aggressively. Then quote unquote, our guys got to the FBI and we thought we were going to get some information. Then they blamed it on the Southern District of New York. Then they blamed it on the FBI field office in New York. And then they slowly kept saying like, yeah, there's all this stuff, but we got to redact all the data because there's all these like children that are violated. Yeah, there's all these bad people and we're going to come to grips and get them. And then in the middle of a catastrophic flood that took place in Texas where dozens of young children died, and we're just coming up on the memory of that right now. Like a bunch of children died in Texas in big flooding. And so they quietly released on a Sunday night to Axios, which is Donald Trump's apparent favorite news outlet. They popped it out there and they said, yeah, we're not going to go after anybody else. We are done with the prosecutions. There are no clients. There are no co-conspirators. There will be no additional indictments or prosecutions of anybody. He trafficked everything to himself. And then Kash Patel went out and said that to Congress. And Dan got strangely quiet. And now he's back chatty about it. Isn't that funny? And the reason why Dan Bongino is fair game, whether you guys want to watch his podcast or not, I catch clips of it because it gets thrown into my feed. I'm fairly confident the Bongino report is a paid, boosted segment, so it shows up in my For Me over on X. And I do like watching what people are getting, what they're paying to promote. This is part of it. But apparently he has complete professional amnesia, doesn't remember that he used to do a job where he was the guy who had access to all the information.
How do you understand, though, however, given the Epstein Files Transparency Act, why this thing and the writing of it was done so poorly? Here's a New York Post article about what happened. California lawmakers' Epstein bombshell outs 4 random guys with no connection to sick billionaire pedophile. That's why there was a back and forth. I feel like I owe you context on this, having lived through this thing and having dedicated hundreds, upwards of close to 1,000 people between FBI and DOJ into getting the information out there and fighting for that. It was like a big public spectacle. I mean, everybody.
Yeah. They were totally fighting to give you the Epstein Transparency Act. That's why we needed Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey to step forward and get a federal law passed to be able to release this stuff because the DOJ was just like trying so hard, but they couldn't just do it. No, the people who had access to the data didn't give it to you. They closed it quietly. They tried to cover it up. They tried to, and covered up. I mean, they literally closed the file on a Sunday night, which was a non-news night, and hoped that nobody would see it. That's what happened. That's the facts of the story. So we'll cover Ro Khanna in a second. You don't have to love any of these people, by the way. There's no, Dan was actually correct in one of the things he said. There's only like villains and greater villains. But he's one of them. He conveniently omits that he's one of the villains in this story and has to be. So allow me to help you understand why it's on Donald Trump. It's so simple. Anybody else, Bush administration, Obama administration, Trump 1, and Biden, there was an ongoing investigation. They had the plausible cover of there's an ongoing investigation, and so we're not going to give you information on this person. We're investigating it. Trump's administration, which I don't think is run by Donald Trump for whatever it's worth. I don't think he runs the DOJ. I don't think he runs the FBI. I think they're run middle out. I think they're run by middle management. I think that Pam Bondi is handled. I think that Patel and Bongino were handled. I've just listened to their words. I know they didn't look at all the files because there were terabytes and terabytes of it. So they didn't see everything. They couldn't have. They were briefed. They were briefed and they were handled in the same way that you can self-handle with AI. And we used to get handled by people who knew stuff when we couldn't have access to it. We had to drive down to a library and try to find archives. Whoever had the information. Oh, wait a minute. Isn't that the thing that intelligence agencies do? They have information and the information is power. How do you translate it into power? You shape people's opinion. That's what intel agencies have done historically. They shape your opinion with the information that they have, and they present you the things that they want you to know and not everything, so you can't make up your mind about all of it. And you probably don't have the time or wherewithal to do it, so you outsource your trust to somebody. This is the nature. This is how it goes. Here is Ro Khanna, but I want you to understand, the minute they shut it down, the investigation, under this administration, when that happened, Donald Trump owned it. It made everything fair game. It allowed Ro Khanna, it allowed Tom Massey, MTG, Anna Paulina Luna, take your pick, whoever wanted to go out there and sign on to it. All those people were then able to push forward this law because they would not be shielded by the terms ongoing investigation. Once that stopped, it was fair game. And then you've got guys saying this, and this is Ro Khanna saying this on Sean Ryan. He's a lefty. He's a California Democrat. He's not saying anything that Republicans from Donald Trump's administration didn't say themselves. I'm going to show you that too. Ready?
You think there's people more powerful than the ones that are already in there? I mean,
Yes. I think there are people who are more powerful or have more information or are more connected into some of these networks that haven't been released. There's no other explanation. I mean, I'm willing to listen to Blanche because he's saying we can see the unredacted files, but there's no other explanation for having an email to Jeffrey Epstein with the abuser's name blacked out. And the email just says, I enjoyed the naughty girl you sent, or I enjoyed the Brazilian girl. Like, why are you blacking that out?
No, seriously. Why are you blacking that out? Why are those redactions happening in the way that they did? If only there was a way for us to understand what was going on there. I did this for Alex Jones's audience. I'm going to share it with my audience here. We're a smaller audience, but we're a smarter audience sometimes. This is what I said on InfoWars yesterday about what was covered up. And then I'm going to show you that this is not unique to a Democrat in California. This is the stuff that the MAGA heroes were putting out. People who wore sparkly rhinestone-covered MAGA jackets said similar things. Here we go. If you remember what was going on in March, the context of that redaction program, there's a woman whose name I keep bringing up to you. Her name is Shannon Perry. She's at the top of my X feed right now, again. And I keep pointing out, she was the woman who was the assistant director in charge of the information management division that did the redaction. She's the top official, like she didn't physically do the redactions. She ran the program. And so there's emails that have been shared that showed that she was asking questions. What can we redact? What needs to be redacted? How are we going to handle this? How's it going to be released? That woman was an intel person and a linguist. She's not a law enforcement officer. She's not an FBI agent. She's a bureaucratic employee. She came in just after 9/11. She was promoted aggressively by Mueller and then by Jim Comey and then by Chris Wray, and she's been promoted by Kash Patel. If you want to know why you're not getting the things that are meant to be gotten, it's really straightforward.
You have leftists and pro-government people sitting in the positions that have the ear of the director. They're giving them all the worst briefings. Remember, Dan Bongino apparently saw all the files. Do we think he saw 15 terabytes worth of data? Did he see 40 terabytes worth of data? How was he out there making conclusive statements just a couple months later after
Patel told Congress, he said, look, I've seen the files. Trust me, there's nothing there. I mean, you can't.
We talked about this a year ago. Alex, it's the same thing we talked about. Somebody briefs these people. They're not reading the files. If anybody believes that these guys have gone out there, pulled up Sentinel, which is the file record keeping system, and gone and looked at it, there's no way. That's not what they do. Like, that's not what the job of the FBI director or the deputy is. So for them to come out and say, I've been briefed on this stuff, I want to know who briefed these guys. And shouldn't everybody else want to know? Shouldn't Kash Patel and Dan Bongino want to know who briefed them?
I love this thing that we're panicking. We have all the polls. We know this is killing Trump. It's the right thing to do. And then you've got no prosecutions of wall-to-wall human trafficking. And Trump has said, well, it'll hurt America if this comes out. Well, then this is hurting America.
It's going to destroy his presidency if it doesn't.
That's all true. And if you were just listening and you weren't watching, what you missed is the receipts that we included there. The first email shown is an email from that woman, Shannon Perry, directly to Dan Bongino, whose name was highlighted on the screen. It may have been small and not easy for you to see, but it's over on X. You guys can find it. I've published the email as well. It was sent out there as proof that they were doing the right thing. You can see her work history and just aligning with the years of who was in charge when she was doing the jobs. And by the way, I got somebody watched that clip and they looked at that particular LinkedIn, her timeline at the FBI. I should actually just read it to you. I'll paraphrase it. One of my former federal agent buddies, a retired guy, said that woman must have sucked a lot of you-know-what to get to where she was, because she went from nowhere to like the top of the food chain in the FBI as a non-agent really, really, really fast when she started taking off. That's called light in the afterburner. We call them blue flamers. You reach back there and then you just rocket up. And she rocketed to the top. And she did it in the Intel division, which is the thing that Kash Patel said was the problem in the FBI, which we all agreed on. All the suspendables have been telling you. What's the Intel division do? What are they dealing? Information. And again, I want to know who the people are that were briefing these people. I want to know who briefed Bongino, who briefed Patel. Where did they come from? Because they sure as hell don't know those people's backstory. This is the problem with not having institutional knowledge. And I will tell you, the biggest problem here is Donald Trump has never, ever been able to get a hold of DOJ. He doesn't understand the animal. He never has. And it's really obvious to me that he's being handled in the same way that we talked about AI handling you. He's outsourced his thoughts. Someone is telling him, sir, the Epstein files are all an attempt to get you and bring you down. And he couldn't be further from the truth. But I know that's what he thinks. Watch this.
If I lose followers over this...
That's not the one I wanted. That's the lose followers guy. Although that guy is saying what a lot of people are thinking. Hold on one second here. I'm going to get you the clip of Trump saying exactly how I know he doesn't know what's going on. Maybe this is... Nope. That's not... That was from yesterday. Stand by. We'll get it here. Donald Trump. Man, there's a lot of... I pulled down a lot of files for today. Give me 1 sec. I may have to go to another spot. This is the downside of not having production. I do it by myself, and I do the best I can. Okay. It should be like right here. Here we go.
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. They went in hoping that they'd find it and found just the opposite. I've been totally exonerated. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein was fighting that I don't get elected with some author, a sleazebag, by the way. And I've been totally exonerated. No, they're getting pulled in, and that's their problem.
Okay, same attitude. He said a different day, sitting in the Oval Office. I played it for you, I think, yesterday, and this is exactly the same thing. You can tell where the man's mind is at because of the way he's saying it.
And no, he made a statement about me and Jeffrey Epstein. I have nothing to do with that. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. And in fact, if you look at the DOJ, they announced, they released 3 million pages. It's like this is all they're supposed to be doing. And frankly, the DOJ, I think, should just say, we have other things to do, because that whole thing has turned out, other than Bill Clinton and, Bill Gates and lots of people that there are a lot of questions about it, but nothing on me. But it was even sort of better than that because they found that Jeffrey Epstein and this sleazebag writer named Michael Wolff were conspiring against Donald Trump to lose the election. So Epstein was conspiring with a writer for me to lose the election. So
that's what Donald Trump has taken away from this. And he's getting handled either by the people that are briefing him, or he just reads what Democrats are saying and then he just reacts to it like a clown. Like he really is just making the most clownish, easily thwarted. All you have to do is say, sir, this is not about you. That's never what it is. That's not where the American people are at. But he can't help it. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. He's literally getting intellectually owned by such mid-witted people as you know, stand by. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Rumble, hit the like button if you're watching. YouTube, like as well. X, I know we streamed to X, but I don't even know if you can find it anymore. It doesn't show up. I got these messages from Restream telling me that it doesn't work. Find us on one of these two platforms. Give us a subscription to it. Subscribe or follow. Take your pick, whatever platform you're on. I'd appreciate that. Thumb it up. Share it with a friend. If you want to notify and not have any of the ads, if you're watching after the fact and you're like, hey, there's a lot of ads on YouTube. Yeah, there are, but you can get rid of them by just showing up live. There's no ads other than what I read for you. So check it out here. You may hear an ad from Spotify if you're listening on the audio. That'll happen right now. You can find the audio and the video, KyleSeraphinShow.com. That's how you find it on Spotify. I think it's a superior way to watch. If you're listening on Apple, if you're listening on iHeartRadio or any of the other audio only, get the video easy. It's like Spotify doesn't cost you anything. There's no subscription cost to you. It's just a better app and it allows you to flip to video. And then you can support us over on locals at KyleSeraphin.com if you are so inclined. Either way, subscribe and follow wherever you're listening. Join us on the preferred spaces right now. Rumble, YouTube, Spotify. Those are the three best. They all have video. They all allow you to see all the stuff that we're doing. So all that's good. Okay, let's do this. Who's this lying sack of garbage? If you're getting owned by Dan Goldman, congressman from New York, because he's actually making you say stupid things like, oh, they said it was about Trump, then you know that Trump is getting either bad briefings or he just can't get out of his own way to think about himself.
That email you referenced, has it been unredacted yet?
Nope, it has not, and there will be more to come. And the importance of it is far greater in my mind than simply what is in there. It is clearly not permitted to be redacted under any privilege. And the fact that it is redacted from public view but allowed for members to see, when it relates to statements that Donald Trump made, makes it very, very clear that it is a part of a cover-up. And that's why the 2.5 to 3 million documents that are being withheld without any explanation are so important to be uncovered and to be handed over to Congress and for the
It is so important that the documents are to be uncovered. Like, he's just a dipshit. I mean, at the end of the day, the man is not smart. He got where he is because of the money that he has. He got owned when he was doing congressional hearings. My friends were in there. He tried to say dumb things because he acted like he knew something because he worked at DOJ for a few minutes, but apparently he was so mid-witted there. Like, he and Kash Patel were probably equally mediocre lawyers, both of whom have been elevated way beyond their capabilities or station. Donald Trump is getting owned by those guys. Here's the timeline. People talked about it for years. It was an ongoing investigation. There was plausible deniability that the DOJ would have to say anything about it for a long time. Then voluntarily, Pam Bondi said, the client list is on my desk and we're going to give it out to you. That's an unforced error because they didn't have it. Then they went and they released a couple hundred files. Oops, that was really bad. It looked really stupid. Then you started having all this talking. Then they had to do something about it. And so they put Alina Habba out there in the world. Alina Habba, she's super pretty. She's an urban cowgirl. She wears rhino-studded MAGA jackets. I actually really don't like Alina Habba only because I just think that there's nothing conservative about this. But that's just because who I am and what I like. I'm biased. Here she is telling you and Piers Morgan about the Epstein files. And this goes back to like March, April of last year. Again, before the Epstein Transparency Act and before they shut down the investigation, she was saying the same things that Ro Khanna said on Sean Ryan's show after they shut down the investigation. And that's why this is a problem. She's a representative of the administration in the United States Attorney's Office saying this.
But in this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable. Let's talk about the reverse. I believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability. We have seen for so many years, Pierce, in this country, many investigations, subpoenas, testimonies in Congress, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a general frustration with accountability. We take it halfway, we don't take it home. And I really believe that now with Kash and Pam, there will be accountability.
And then they closed the file. Then they released information saying that there were no additional clients. There was no additional indictment pending. All investigative leads had been covered. They had done every logical investigative step, and then they shut it down. You don't have to like Piers Morgan. I don't. I think he's a fat, weak, beta male Brit. So what? The questions are legit. Her answer was unforced. She gave you information. Who briefed Alina Habba? She was in the United States Attorney's Office in New Jersey. She had access to information, at least some of it. Or was she speaking completely out of turn and just saying what she thought people wanted to hear? That's a possibility too. Nobody made her say that. Was she a representative of the Trump administration? Maybe she'll tell Benny Johnson.
I actually just asked about this and where it's at. And I just want to say, I understand and hear the American people's, ask. And sometimes they mistakenly put it on me, and that's fine. I'm part of the administration. But I will say that I personally have checked in. They are going through it. You have to be patient, because when you are wanting to prosecute and actually do something with the information that you have to make sure that you save the integrity of the investigation so that we can bring these people to justice, so that we can hold grand juries, so that we can do certain things. You have to be careful. The value for the American people to know immediately would undercut, we have to do it. We have to expose it. And we're going to be transparent 100%. But we also have to make sure we're not putting any children in danger, putting any minors that don't want and do not deserve to be publicly identified in danger, and making sure that we put forth the information that would still assist us in getting these individuals to justice.
And then they closed the investigation and nobody was going to be prosecuted. Their words, not mine. There were no co-conspirators. He trafficked only to himself. Don't you think that if there was information that something else happened, that I would have brought the case yesterday, Kash Patel, in front of Congress talking to Senator John Kennedy? We got it? Those are official people inside the administration saying things, people who have the ear of Donald Trump, saying the same thing that the Democrats were saying. They're just saying them earlier, and then they close the investigation. We're going to have transparency. We're going to get to the end of this. How about CNN? What do they say on CNN? This is some other low-tier congressman talking about something. You've given them opportunities to dunk on you because it's your own fault.
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. They went in hoping that they'd find it and found just the opposite. I've been totally exonerated. In fact, Jeffrey Epstein was fighting that I don't get elected with some author, a sleazebag, by the way. And I've been totally exonerated. No, they're getting pulled in, and that's their problem.
So what's your reaction to that?
Well, it's a lie. I mean, he hasn't been exonerated. For him to say he has nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein is flat out absurd. I mean, one of the things we have learned through these files, through the subpoena of the Oversight Committee, is that Trump's relationship with Epstein was much longer and much deeper than he has revealed publicly, and he has been lying about it for decades. I reviewed an illegally redacted file at the Department of Justice where Epstein's lawyers were recounting a conversation they had with Donald Trump where he essentially denied that he had ever been on Epstein's plane, where he admitted that he didn't remove Epstein from Mar-a-Lago as he had claimed and continued to claim until relatively recently. He had a very long, deep relationship with Epstein. He lied about it, continues to lie about it, and he did everything he could to prevent the release of these files. And his Department of Justice continues to cover them up by not fully releasing them and over-redacting them.
Okay. The last thing he said was true, and everything else there is weak. But you're going to get owned and you're going to get pushed into a position by, James Walkinshaw, somebody no one's ever heard of from Virginia. There's 435 members of Congress. He's not one that you're going to see on a regular basis. You're going to let that guy push you into a position? It's intellectually weak, and they're taking advantage of the one thing that everybody knows about Donald Trump, which is he's a freaking narcissist, and he thinks it's all about him, and he missed the entire point. I'm going to show you what the entire point is in 1 second. But I did answer this question. We did say this on InfoWars the other day. Alex Jones clipped it together. I think this is as coherent as it can be. Sometimes I say stuff on another show that I want to bring to ours. So here it is. This is a concentrated little discussion of why he's getting baited into the wrong thing. I think he's fatigued. I think that his own administration has slow walked him into being frustrated, and that may be on purpose. Again, I think the problem is the briefings, who's giving it to them and why and what their aim is and where the hell they came from. You never captured back DOJ. You never captured FBI. And so they are running circles around these people that are going out and making fools of themselves, and made fools of themselves for a full year. That's not the min. Let's go to the clip. Here we go. Trump doesn't even understand it. I watched a clip of him over the weekend where he was like, look, they released the files and I'm not in it. I didn't go to the island. It's not my problem. It's like, listen, you freaking narcissist. Can someone get through to Donald Trump? Forget your thin-skinned instinct that you think it's about you. It's not about you. It's about this country. The Achilles heel of Donald Trump has always been DOJ. I don't think he understands the animal, and that's not his problem. If you want to be great at business, you're probably not going to understand law enforcement. They're not the same kind of thing. They don't operate the same way. DOJ has always been a problem. Trump's DOJ went after him. They're the ones that set up and went after, we'll call it Trump's DOJ. We're the ones that went after people for January 6th, right? The same people work there. It's because it's never been Trump's DOJ, and it's still not Trump's DOJ, and it's not Trump's FBI. It doesn't exist just because you got the guy at the top. It's a blind spot, and it needs to stop being a blind spot because it's a fatal blind spot. It became the Epstein administration the minute that Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and Todd Blanche closed the investigation via memo that was released to Axios in July of 2025. From that time on, everything was fair game to release. You no longer had the cover of, it's an active investigation and we're going after co-conspirators. They explicitly stated there are no co-conspirators. It's pretty obvious from people reading that there probably are.
If I lose followers over this video, good. Watch this clip and I'll be right back.
I think it's really time for the country to get onto something else. It was a conspiracy against me, literally, by Epstein and other people. But I think it's time now for the country to maybe get onto something else.
What would you say to people who feel like they haven't gotten justice, Mr. President?
Something that people care about.
Oh, we care. I'm a conservative and I voted for you and I care about this more than anything. There are very powerful men in this country doing terrible things to children, walking around like it's all good. Why hasn't anyone been arrested? I don't care what's going on in any other country because I live here in the USA. And I could be wrong, but it seems like our whole country is ran by rich pedophiles who do whatever they want and have no consequences. I voted for you to bring the fucking consequences. You're the president. Do your job. You have all the power. These people should be put to death, or at the very least, put in prison. And you're not just a president. You're a father, and I'm a father. And our job, above everything else, is to protect our children. Do your fucking job.
That's pretty straightforward. That's pretty plain speak. That is a conversation that you could have with a regular person, a bacon cheeseburger nationalist standing on a playground or hanging out there after church, even though you probably shouldn't be using the salty language. You're going to probably do it because this is a passionate thing. If you're a father, if you are a husband, if you are a law-abiding person who doesn't want to see people who've done evil things get away with it, and you've been led to believe by the people that are on the other side of the aisle and on quote-unquote your side of the aisle that there are evil people that would be shocking if you were to find out about it, that are getting away with it, and then your DOJ comes out, the people that you thought were going to go out there and get it done, and they release a memo saying, it's over, there's no one else here, he trafficked people to himself, forget what all the victims have said, forget what we have said, forget all the things that we've had like inclinations and all these little sort of like little secret knowledge that we had that we can't tell you about, and our friends that used to fly on a plane with Bill Clinton and all the other nonsense there, and all the people that are acting as though there's something really, really bad going on because they're quitting their jobs at lucrative places. Forget about all that stuff. And then you might have some salty language to say, like, do your freaking job. This is what you came in here to do. Donald Trump wasn't meant to go in there and fluff up and protect the government. People voted for Donald Trump, like that man, like this man sitting here, Because I heard they were going to take a chainsaw to fraud, waste, abuse. I heard they were going to go after weaponization and shut it down. And in the meantime, the number 4 person at the FBI running the Information Management Division, who also helped do the redactions at the Epstein files, that woman, Shannon Perry, was in charge of the whistleblower retaliation program, also known as the FBI's insider threat. They accused people, and we had credible reporting from both Tracy Beans when we did it. We had whistleblowers come forward to us and show that they combined the whistleblower training, where FBI agents, FBI employees that might have seen malfeasance involved in that agency got trained at the same time that they were saying, hey, you have a right to go to Congress and you can be a whistleblower and you can share it with your management and we're not going to fire you over it. They also had the same training combined with something called insider threat. An insider threat is how we find people that are terrorists and spies that are selling out our country in a treacherous manner. So they let you know that if you were going to go out there and expose the malfeasance going on in your government agency, we also might, lump you in with the people. By the way, I had an insider threat investigation into me. Garrett O'Boyle had an insider threat investigation into him. Marcus Allen had an insider threat investigation into him. 4 other suspendables whose names you don't know, but were at January 6th and have been returned. They all had insider threats directed against them. Steve Friend, insider threat. Every single one of us was looked at as insider threats. Because we were an insider threat. We were inside the FBI and we were a threat to the FBI. And we wanted Donald Trump to go in and stop that. And the cover-up of the Epstein files and the fact that the woman who did the redactions is the same one that came after us at the time when she did. You guys serious right now? The investigations that were done by my former agency into me were run by the woman who did the Epstein redactions. Do you know how personal that gets? So maybe Donald Trump could get it through his thick head or his thin skin or whatever the problem is, that it's not about freaking him. And other people get it as well. There are a lot of people that are going to go, you know what? Screw it. I thought we were going to vote our way out, but we're not. It's been proven to me conclusively that we will not vote our way from this at all. And so therefore, I'm not going to vote at all. I'm done voting for the lesser of 2 evils because I don't want to vote for any evil. That's what people are saying. Is that pragmatic? No. Is it an emotional response? It is. I don't think people will stop voting for all things, but I think people will look at the national elections and go, screw it. It's not going to change. We just put in the guy who should have been the biggest middle finger to the administrative state that really runs a lot of what goes on in this country. And the result was we got some executive orders and some tariffs. And we lost some sponsors here at the show because they can't afford to the ROI. You're not going to be able to vote out of that. And so people are going to go, yeah, I want to have the right member of Congress representing me, and I'd like to have the right county judge, and I want to make sure that my city council is stocked by people that I like. But why? Why do I even care at the national level when Donald Trump is running and pushing against Tom Massey and saying that he's the problem, or Rand Paul is the problem? And by the way, the solution is Lindsey Graham. More on that in 1 second. First, let's just look at these polling numbers. These are abysmal.
Some bad news in the polling for President Trump. His approval rating hitting new lows. CNN's Harry Enton is running the numbers on this one for us. Hello, Harry.
Hello, Kate.
Where does the president stand?
Happy Washington's birthday observed today. That's what it is in the state of New York. I'm a New Yorker through and through. Let's take a look at another president, though. President Donald John Trump. Look at this. I got 4 numbers across for you on this screen here. They are all second-term lows for the given pollster. What are we talking about? AP North, 26 points below water. NBC, 22 points below water. Yahoo YouGov, 20 points below water. Quinnipiac, 19 points below water. So we're ranging from negative 19 points all the way to negative 26 points. You know, Kate, there's this question that folks keep asking, you know, where is the floor for Donald Trump? And I'm not sure there is a floor, because if there is one, Donald Trump, at least in term number 2, has just fallen through it to another low level.
How does this compare with this?
Yeah, I don't like that guy either. But one of the things that I like to do is watch people I don't agree with. I go find some conflicting information, things that go against my instinct, find things that do not agree with my confirmation bias. I want to go out there and challenge my mind. And I go, I think that I could fight that guy with nothing in my hands. I wouldn't even stretch, and I'd be willing to jump into a death match with that man. I don't even know anything about him. I just looked at the way he moved, and I'm like, yep, effeminate dude. I'll take him apart. No problem. Oh, he's got more reach than you. Don't care. I've evaluated that guy to be low on the spectrum of masculinity. And Numbers are numbers. And people picking up the phone and answering questions, especially independents, they're feeling that same way. They're like, yeah, I thought we were going to get something. Nobody that voted for Donald Trump was like, I hope he goes in soft and does a weak job of it. I hope Donald Trump comes in with a light touch and doesn't interfere too much with government. I hope Donald Trump really takes it easy on these bureaucratic types and doesn't upset the apple cart. I hope he keeps the status quo as much as possible. Said nobody who voted for Donald Trump in 2024. The people that are frustrated with Donald Trump are the ones who are like, I wanted you to go in there like freaking Blackbeard. I wanted you to go in there with cigarettes in your beard and lighting those cigarettes on fire so you scared the ever-loving shit out of the people that saw you coming in like a damn pirate. That's what people wanted. And when they got like someone who's like, hey, you know, like people were trying to come after me and like I was not in the Epstein, I've been totally exonerated by all these ugly things. Right. Yeah, nobody cares. That's the wrong message. And whoever told you that, it's like, why are your polling numbers on the economy so bad? I don't know. They should be good. Well, they weren't. So then what? Do you pivot? Or do you just say that everybody is wrong? They just haven't figured out how right I am. I mean, that's one way to do it. It's just not a way to win. Maybe you could endorse this guy. Maybe we could just start a war with Iran. That would be a big winner. I think the American Make America Great Again, America First, America Only, bacon cheeseburger nationalist type human beings. I think that they would be most excited if we could just start a war, maybe a patriotic theme. Maybe we could bomb some crap country that's not actually a threat to us currently in this space, that's not going to actually be able to do anything kinetic action wise. Maybe we could just get Lindsey Graham to help us kick off a war so we could go kill off a bunch of people that look like me from 20 years ago. Could we do that maybe?
To those who may participate in this endeavor, God bless you. God keep you safe if that day does come. Could our soldiers be hit in the region? Absolutely they could. Can Iran respond if we have an all-out attack? Absolutely they can. I think the risk associated with that is far less than the risk associated with blinking and pulling the plug and not helping the people as you promised. We told them to go back in the street, keep protesting. Help was on the way. We have to be good to our word. So this trip is a special trip for me. It's putting a fine point on something I've been working on for over 2 years.
If we back out now,
oh, he's been working on that for 2 years. That's Lindsey Graham.
Mistake we've made, far worse than the Syrian red line, far worse than Afghanistan. You can't say, keep protesting, we got you back, help's on the way, and nothing happened. I've never seen a more consequential time in history as right now. If we can take this regime down through the people, their desires, not ours, and replace it with a friend, not a foe, be the biggest change in 1,000 years. We've had it.
Let me just say this. America has a really good track record with regime change. And so Donald Trump backing this guy and being mad at Tom Massey, that makes a lot of sense to me, right? Right? No? It doesn't? Oh, we're shitty at regime change, and whenever we do it, something bad happens? What the hell are we doing here? Can we parachute this homo? Can we take this flaming homo and drop him into freaking Tehran? And can we strap his buddy Mark Levin with him too, who seems to be saber rattling so aggressively? Again, there are people that listen to this man. There are people that continue to vote for this man, and they care what Donald Trump thinks about this man. This is the problem going back. We've outsourced our thinking. If you've outsourced your thinking to Donald Trump, and whatever Donald Trump's opinion is good enough for you, just in the same way it's bad like to trust AI, whether it be Siri or Meta or Gemini or ChatGPT or any other crap, if you want to outsource your thinking to a political pundit or to some garbage politician who has clearly failed in a bunch of other ways, the way that Donald Trump is failing on this one, call it whatever you like, he's failing. He thinks it's about something it's not. He thinks his polling numbers are not where they are. You know how screwed up we are? It's not good. Apparently, Lindsey Graham goes to Israel every 2 weeks, per that statement.
You ready? Thumbs up back there? Thumbs up from everybody, okay. Well, I'm Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina. I'm back. I come here every 2 weeks where I need to or not. So why did I come this time? To put a fine point of where we're at as a world regarding the Iranian regime.
And what we need to do is send some men to war. And God bless them. If they die, they die. So he says, his throbbing war boner rolling out hard as it can. That's freaking gross to me. If that's the guy that you're backing, if Mark Levin can go out and give you a hug and you want to campaign and primary Tom Massey. Tom Massey is a proxy for sanity to me. I don't agree with everything Tom Massey says. I'm sure of it. I have no idea what the things are, but there's things that he says and I'm like, maybe not. You know why? Because I'm a human being, and so are you, and we don't agree with everything. You shouldn't agree with everything I say. There should be things that I say on the show that you're like, I disagree with that vehemently. Cool. Post it in the comments. Give me evidence. Change my mind. Or just say I'm a moron, because that's totally how you change people's minds. There was a time, to go back to what MTG started off with, where somebody would say something that you didn't agree with, and you'd be like, oh man, I don't agree with that at all. Do you know about this thing and this thing that happened? Do you have this historical context? Did you know about that? And they'd be like, oh, I didn't know that. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, well, we'll look into it and get back to me, because I think you might be mistaken on that. What do we do now? ChatGPT told me that what you said is wrong because I asked for some specific answer, and now I think you're the worst person in the world. Unfollowed and blocked, angry. How much of that do we see? How many people are going to unfriend you because you're like, hey, you know what? I'm not sure that I want to get this COVID shot thing. It seems kind of new. Doesn't seem like it's my thing. Or you're like, hey, did you know that it was developed using fetal cell lines? And I didn't realize that was a thing, but because they're using fetal cell lines and I'm really, really against abortion, I've actually modified my opinion over life as I've learned more things, like all human beings that grow up do. And I'm not going to get something that encourages some really, really evil processes. I'm going to be against that. And then people would do what? What would they do? They'd be like, oh, that's a rational and sensible thing. Like, I disagree with you. I think there's a medical benefit to it. No, they go, you're trying to kill us. You're trying to kill my grandparents. I had a dude at the FBI that said, if my mother, who has a heart condition, dies because you assholes don't get the vaccine, I will never forgive you. I'm like, dude, your mom lives in Ohio. I've never even been to Ohio, as far as I know. I don't think I've ever been to Ohio. Your mom's going to be freaking fine, dude, from me. I had people that I helped move into their home, that I gave a place to stay when they had nothing going on. I invited them to my table for Thanksgiving. I brought them into my home to meet my children, and they didn't actually provide much more than like they were my friend from work. And I just knew that they were lonely and alone. And I didn't like that about them. Unfriended me, blocked me, doesn't want to call, doesn't care if anything bad happens to me, thinks it was my own fault because I made a choice that was different than him medically when he was in another state and I was never going to see his mom in Ohio. Like, do you guys realize how ridiculous we've gotten? We've gotten kind of ridiculous. And then people outsource their opinion to this man, who, by the way, nothing for nothing, Mark Levin stole my entire article that I wrote for Tracy Beans over at Uncover DC, which we talked about last week, I think. The article about Catholics. It was a very academic type thing. It's a little different than my opinion stuff. When I write articles, I tend to get very academic, and it's not particularly inflammatory. I wrote an academic analysis of the danger of the FBI being involved in determining what a radical traditionalist Catholic is and why that was a danger going on for all Christians, why they should care about Latin Mass Catholics in Richmond, Virginia. I wrote that in 2023. Mark Levin took the entire article and put it in his book. And one of the weirdest things that I've ever seen is I was standing at the Blaze headquarters with Steve Baker, and we're sitting there talking, and I look over, and Mark Levin is on TV. On his Life, Liberty, and Levin bullshit show. And he straight up is reading my article in his book. He's looking at his book, and my article was in it. For several minutes, he just read my words. And I was like, that's super weird. Did you seriously crib my entire article for your book? Like, it was most of a chapter. That's bizarre. I mean, he broke it up with like his little analysis, but he took the entirety of it. He also wants you to understand that there's a historical sisterhood connection apparently between Judaism and Christianity. I keep seeing this. It is making me the most not interested person in what I was raised in Texas and California, right? Those are the two places where I grew up, mostly in Texas. Jewish people are not a thing. For those of you that are from the East Coast and you're like used to like having Jewish friends and stuff like that, there are no Jewish people that I ever I never saw them. I know there's some in Houston. There's obviously synagogues in Dallas. I didn't know any of them. I grew up around Catholics and Baptists and other evangelicals and Protestants and stuff. That's the only people I saw. Jewish people represent like 2.5% of America. They are much smaller in the American South than they are in the Northeast. And they're like not relevant. They're not religiously Jewish in California. At least they weren't when I was growing up, as I recall. So to talk about Judaism in 2026 as being a relevant political force is really weird. And I keep seeing it and I'm like, what in the actual hell? Muslims are not a political force in America. Nobody that is not a bacon cheeseburger nationalist is really a relevant political force. They are all outside of the dominant culture of the United States. It used to be a 90+% Christian country. We're still a 60+% Christian country. We are a Christian nation dominantly, and that's where our values come out of. Here's what's really crazy. When someone shoehorns themselves into a story, growing up in the Catholic Church, 44 years, yeah, I was away from the church for a little while, and I came back, and I remember being educated in Catholic schools, in Catholic high schools. I was very acutely aware. Never once has there been a teaching in the oldest division of Christianity, which is the Catholic Church, going back all the way to Peter, who was the Bishop of Rome, the first Pope. Going all the way back to that, there's never been a huge discussion in either tradition about the nation of Israel, which was started in the 1940s. None. It's just not relevant. It's not taught. Mark Levin would like to change your mind about that. He wants to be parachuted in on a halo jump with Lindsey Graham so the two of them can get their war boner on in Iran. And so here's why you're a bad person. This is the craziest thing. When I heard this, I was like, what in the actual shit is this guy talking about? By the way, for a lawyer, he apparently doesn't know how conjunctions work.
If you reject Judaism and you reject Christianity and you reject the link of the two, you reject the Bible. If you reject Judaism and Christianity and the brotherhood and the sisterhood of the two, not only are you rejecting our founding, you're rejecting our country. You're pushing some other agenda, whatever that agenda may be.
Yeah, the agenda is that we don't need whatever you just did, that weird pontification of trying to link Christianity and Judaism. Anybody who has any questions should go look at Sunday's reading from the Catholic Mass this last Sunday, where Jesus talks about the fulfillment of the law, that he didn't come to abolish it, but to fulfill it. How many Christians keep kosher? Oh, none of you? The law he was talking about was the law of Moses. It was on the tablets. It's the 10 Commandments. That's it. So those are still good, for sure. But nobody has to live under Judaism to be a Christian. And in fact, the entirety of it is that Judaism says that the things that people believe in Christianity are not real. So that's ridiculous. And we have a brotherhood and a sisterhood in there. This weird link that I've seen and some of these people trying to cause it. And because of that, I'm supposed to support like the civic government of Israel, which I could not give two shits about. I give as less a shit about what goes on in Israel as I do in Nicaragua, as I do in Colombia, as I do in freaking Tangier or Nigeria. I don't care. It's not like I'm not from there. It's not my country. They're not my people. They never have been. I don't care about the places where I'm from. Theoretically, like I guess I have some Irish blood and I have some Czech blood. Do I care about them? No, I don't. I care about this country. So anyway, this weird move that's gone out there where we have to support some other country, our greatest ally, which is clearly not our ally because they steal from us. I saw another thing from Mark Levin's feed today where he was talking about how the Israelis have improved the range of the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. Cool. So what you did is you took tens or even hundreds of billions of dollars worth of American research and development. You took a high-speed, ultra-sophisticated 4th or 5th generation aircraft fighter and you increased the fuel capacity of it with like some efficiencies. Awesome. Amazing. Don't give a shit. The Israelis are stealing from us left and right in intellectual property. That's a normal thing. The number of counterintelligence cases against our greatest ally is like shockingly high, considering they're our greatest ally. They're just not. They're a frenemy. So anyone saying otherwise is weird. And people who spend every 2 weeks there, if that's Donald Trump's people and Tom Massey is the problem, I'm freaking out. I was never a MAGA guy, guys. I never was. But I was co-aligned on the things that made sense. You want to do Epstein transparency? I'm for it. You want to go after pedophiles? I'm in. You want to de-weaponize government? Thank God. Somebody please do that so they don't kill my family, kill your family, kill my friends' families. That'd be great. You want to like jump into wars after saying you weren't going to be in wars and you were the president of peace? Hard pass. Not interested. Ever. And if you don't understand the problem because you're too thin-skinned and narcissistic, and you cannot figure out what's actually happening because you're surrounded by a bunch of like worm tongue, demon whispering people in your ears that are giving you the worst information, this is the ongoing problem. We keep having bad information briefed to otherwise okay, but not that smart, not that skeptical people. So as I started off in the beginning, people that are outsourcing their thinking to some other entity, whether it be AI, whether it be a pundit on TV, whether it be bad briefers that have some sort of reason or ulterior motive to shape your thoughts to get their will, I'm against it. But I do hold you accountable for it because I do believe in free will and agency, and you are responsible for the things you do. And if you put your trust in the wrong person and it results in something really bad, it is on you. That includes Donald Trump. I am sick of people excusing the man for doing bad things. Somebody said, well, who are we going to trust if we can't trust in these people? I mean, we already know that. That answer was already done. If you're a Christian, you already understand that. You can only trust one person who did it right. And by the way, they killed him for it. So the ends are probably not going to be awesome for you to do that. And it's really freaking hard because there's so much animosity when someone betrays you and does all the evil things. I'm not good enough to do that. I already know that I'm going to fail. I already know because I will. If somebody does any of the things that you read about in the Epstein files to like anybody in my circle, I'm freaking jocking up and we're going. Like, that's it. I cash my check. I'm done. I'm probably going to damn my soul. I'm just not that good. I would pray for grace. I just don't know that it will come. And in the meantime, we got these people over here that are so sure that they're right, that they're willing to give some person that they don't even know, that parasocial relationship, they're going to give that person all of their outsourced thoughts and opinions. And they're just going to sign on for whatever that's about. Guess what? A bunch of us won't do it. Regular people won't do it. Bacon cheeseburger nationalists won't do it. Apparently MTG won't do it either. And I'm not even a big fan of that lady. I just think she's right in that case. There you go. Is that fun? You guys want to hear how amazing sometimes somebody really, really gets it and they knock it out of the park with teaching somebody? There's a teacher that posted this on X. I don't know anything about whether or not this guy's a great teacher, but this lesson is brilliant. Occasionally somebody really just resonates and they teach you what the real world is about. And teachers, you can have that impact. And the only thing that he taught is skepticism, which is what I'm talking about today. So I think it's all in line. It's our palate cleanse for today. Before we do, I'll just remind you guys, if you're not giving us a like yet, please do. What the hell are you waiting for? What's wrong with you? Rumble, YouTube, give us a like, subscribe to the channels over there. If you're on X, join us in the real places. If you're listening anywhere other than Spotify, you're missing out. It costs you nothing. Number one, there's no subscription. Number two, I didn't know all those things. It gives you video and audio. It gives you transcripts and it gives you chapters. So come and check us out over on Spotify. You can get there by just typing in Kyle Seraphin Show on your browser, and you'll get the best experience, I think, of the podcast from the audio side. And then make sure you subscribe over on Spotify too. I will slowly convert you guys from Apple, which is our biggest audience, over to Spotify, which is it's our fastest growing audience. So come and do that over there. And they put some of the ads out on this program. Okay, let me grab this clip of this teacher who just freaking crushes it with teaching kids about the reality of how things actually work. And once you get it, you're like, yes, this is what it's about.
Anytime a kid speaks in my class, I have to give them a detention. This was a rule the students made, and this is how it happened. George Washington warned in his farewell address, don't create political parties and don't let other countries influence your government. And my kids just weren't clicking with it. So I divided them in two groups. I told them in their groups to create whatever law they thought would make their lives better. And then I said, pick one person per group to go in the hallway and discuss with me these rules, and we'll pass them. And they were so excited. These class leaders got out. They said, we want to be on our phones all the time. They said, we want unlimited bathroom passes. They said so many cool things, and they were excited. I stopped them and I said, you know what, guys? I want you to pass 2 laws for me. Anyone that talks in class gets a detention, and no more bathroom passes. I said, if you just pass those 2 laws, I'll give you both an A+ on the next 2 tests. That's it. We got back in the class, and they did exactly that. They passed. Anytime you talk in my class, I have to give a detention. And everyone's face in the class went, wait, what? And they said, no more bathroom passes. And then again, are you kidding? That's not what we said. And then they were just so confused. What happened? Here's what happened. When I gave them power to make laws that would make their lives more enjoyable, better, I stepped in and I said, I will give you this if you pass whatever law I want. So then kids quickly realized, wait, it doesn't matter what we want. Those 2 decision-making leaders just got what they wanted, and their lives are better. And I said, exactly right. Isn't that crazy that Washington warned against letting other countries influence our decisions? Interesting. Teach that, AI.
I love that so much. I love how he ended it because that is a uniquely human thing. You represent, you outsourced your process. You put somebody in to represent you. Everybody came up with what they wanted. All you had were your two representatives go out there and agree on it. They went to the hallway, and then someone got to them and said, what? I'll just make you a better deal. And it won't be for everybody. It's just for you. And people went, yep, that's good enough. They're kids. There are not a lot of people who have principles that would say that they would not sell out. We don't have very many people that are willing to stand against whatever that looks like. They learned it in a way that they will never be able to forget. And hopefully you guys think about this. I'm going to push this out there. What an awesome message. You let people vote their way out of it only to find out that their vote actually didn't matter because the last person that spoke to them gave something that nobody else did, actually gave the real power and said, here's what's going to happen for you. Kaboom. Mind blowing, right? That's something to meditate on. That is something to meditate on. I will. I'll make that available over on our locals channel on Kyle Seraphin. I'll put it up. I'll post the same thing over on the X feed for those of you that want to share it around. Because a lot of times people ask me like, "Hey, where do those come from? Where do you find them?" And you guys can go look them up. You can follow him on Instagram if you're so inclined, or on TikTok, whatever that stuff is. I don't do TikTok, so that's it for today. Thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate all of you guys. Stick around for my friend Steve Friend, a guy who would not compromise his principles. It's the American Radicals podcast. It's at AmRad Pod over on X, and it is YouTube at AmRad Pod and Rumble American. I think it's at AmRad Pod there too. So all those places. And remember the opening lines there in their intro. We're in the information age, but facts are in short supply. You should be looking for facts. You could take the opinion too. If you like my opinion, great. Look at the underlying facts of why I'm doing it, and then decide whether you agree or not. Don't outsource your opinion to Kyle Seraphin, to Steve Friend, to Dan Bongino, to Donald Trump, or to freaking AI. Please, just like, that's all I beg of anybody who listens to this. Please do not outsource your opinion. Do not give it to somebody blindly. Because then you're going to find out that that person is also bought by somebody else. That's what's going to end up happening. At some point, you're going to find out you trusted the wrong person. You're going to get screwed over. That's where all of us are right now that don't want to vote because we're frustrated with it. All right. God bless you. In the end, it wins, but I think it's a rough road to it. So I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Have a good Wednesday. Oh, Tuesday. Have a good Tuesday. Holy moly.
Thanks for listening to the Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.